Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. I'm Jim Craig, and I'm the Technical and Marketing Guy with the Oasis Hub. And over the next 20 minutes or so, what we'll do is walk you through the process of adding your data to the Oasis Hub. If you've got any questions, please type them in the Q&A box as we go. There'll be time at the end to answer any questions. You can get to the Q&A box by just moving your mouse to the bottom of the screen, and a little panel of buttons come up so you can control things like audio and that sort of thing. There's a little button there that says Q&A. So if you type a question in there, it'll pop up on our console, and what we'll do is we'll collect them all up at the end, and then we'll deal with them all in one go, if that's okay. So the webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a link to the recording a few days after the webinar's finished. We need to do a little bit of processing and upload it to YouTube first. So the Hub came into being in 2015, so we're just over 2 years old now. And in a nutshell, our primary goal is to make environmental hazard data, tools, and services more readily available to a wider and an increasingly non-technical, non-expert audience. And so we're a marketplace, if you will. And the idea is to help people like catastrophe modelers, people who are dealing with adaptation planning, disaster risk response community, civil engineering projects. They're just, a few examples of the sorts of projects that the data is being used in. We typically divide our community into data providers and data consumers. However, you can be a consumer that can also provide data and vice versa. So there's no kind of hard and fast rules. You can be an independent consultant. I talked to lots of postdocs, lots of PhD with PhDs who've got hard drives full of data that they think would be useful to share with the wider world. Or you could be part of a team in a very large organization like a global insurer, for example. So we have lots of insurers and reinsurers on the platform. So a marketplace is a place where you meet and exchange thoughts and ideas and experience as well. It's not just about goods and services. And this is something that we are looking to promote more, and we'll be doing more next year as well. So the idea is to help, with the help of people like yourselves, really, to share your experiences and help to educate this growing market. So let's get started. What's on screen at the moment is the Oasis Hub website. So the first step is to make sure that you're a member of Oasis Hub. Now, it's very easy to do. I'll just load up a different browser because I'm logged in, or I'm going to log in two different guises. So if you go to the Oasis Hub homepage and to create a new account, you simply click the Create Account button. Very simple. It just loads up the form, and you provide it with the information, username. It's got my details because I'm logged in earlier on. You give yourself a username, your full name, job title, organization, email, password, confirm your password. Just check on the terms and conditions if you want to. And if you want to get notified of events like this, if you click the email button, it means that we are GDPR compliant, and you've given us your consent for us to invite you to webinars and other events of this type. So once you've created your, once you click Create Account, that will create your account for you. The next thing to do is to log in to the Hub. Now, one of the things that we need you to do as well is to create the organization for you and make the account that you've just created a member of that organization. So the next thing to do once you've created your account, if you send an email to hello@oasishub.co with some details about your organization name, a brief description, and a logo, then we can create the organization and attach the relevant user IDs to that account, that organization for you. And then that allows you to then start creating and managing data. So first thing I'm going to do is to log into the Hub with one of my many Hub aliases. So once I've logged in, the next thing that I do is click on this little wee hamburger menu here up on the right of the screen. And that drops down a menu, and then at the very bottom is this little gear wheel. So if you click on the gear wheel next to your name, it drops down a little sub menu, and there's a whole bunch of things you can do in there, like manage your profile. And what we're most interested in is data sets. So if I click over here, takes me to my data sets page. And if I just click on the data sets tab, the option it gives me here is to add a new data set. Now, what I'm going to do is, rather than you wait for me to type, because Christmas is fast looming on us and it will take me till Christmas to type these things in, what I'm going to do is just drop some text into these boxes just to speed things along a little bit. Now, when you add a title to a database, for a data set rather, we found that using the format of country, type of data, and your company name is a way that gives it a structure that people can understand. And also it works very well with the likes of Google and other search engines as well. So it gets found and tagged a lot more easily if we have this kind of consistent format. The next thing you do is, after you've given it a title, is to provide some description. And you can be quite verbose with the description if you want to be. I'll just drop some text in here. And what we are real big fans of making the data understandable to a kind of as wider an audience as possible. So you can tag it with a whole bunch of different tags that help make the data stand out. So I'll just drop some tags in here for the area I live in and some rivers and watercourses around where I live. Now, we have a whole range of license agreements, a lot of open source licenses that are available on the hub that you can make your data set associated with. The other thing that you can also do as well is to use our own Oasis Hub license. Now, as the site administrator, I get to see lots of different organizations, but I'm here today creating a data set on behalf of the Oasis Hub. You might be a consultant that's working on behalf of a number of different organizations, so you can have an account that is associated with a number of different organizations. You can be an administrator, you can be an editor, or you can be a member. So you've got 3 levels of access into the system. When you're creating a data set for the first time, we strongly recommend that you keep the visibility as private. That means it's not publicly available. There's only you and other members of your organization that can see it. I mentioned tagging as something that we're kind of big fans of. The other thing that we're real big fans of is being able to make the data as understandable as possible by as wide an audience as possible. And there's a couple of ways that we do that. One of them is that you can actually embed a video here. So if you've got a video clip of your data in action, you may be doing some animations or some modeling, you can embed that video link into the field here. This is just a video that we've got on our YouTube channel. And you can also attach previews of the image as well. So I'm just going to attach this image here as well. So the idea is that we give you a number of different ways that you can kind of convey the impact of the information of the data that you're uploading onto the system. Now, the next field that you are presented with is this dataset review status. If it's a commercially available data set, then we just simply mark that as approved. If it's a data set where we need to check some things with you, then we put it in review, or maybe that you're working on it, it's work in progress, so you want to put it in the in review stage. And requires further input is where you may have uploaded some data and we've looked at it and thought, actually, we want to clarify a few more things with you, or we feel like you could, improve the visualization or enhance the data in some way, enhance the presentation of the data in some way. So that's why we've got this option for requires further input. That allows us to kind of work with you to kind of really improve the quality of what you're presenting. The date range, again, it's important that we have a realistic and reliable date range for people that are using the data to make sure it's relevant for the particular work that they're working on at the moment. So we'll just go from 1st of January to November of this year, and then what category of data or what category is the data in. So we can choose a whole range of different categories here. Documentation, again, this is something else that we are big fans of. The more help you can give your audience in terms of not only appreciating what the data is about through the visualization, but documentation that explains any assumptions, any methods, any other particular aspects of the data. It's kind of really beneficial for you to provide documentation here. It's just a simple click box here, so I'll upload some documentation in a PDF form. The next field is the data commercial or not? The hub allows you to put data on the site that's freely available, so no charge at all, or you do have the option of saying yes, the data is commercial. If you choose yes to say the data is commercial, you can put in a price, but you also get this little extra box here, is it restricted? And the restriction really, restrictions probably a slightly misleading term. Really, this is more to do with, are there any particular attributes of the data that you want to include as part of the data set. So you might have specific pricing for the academic or the charity non-profit sector or emergency DRR. Public sector typically receives a discounted price as well. So this allows you to put in some specific prices. Now, when you mark a data set as restricted, the price isn't publicly available. What the data set buyer, in inverted commas, would see is a get price button, and then they click on the get price button, fill in a simple form that explains a little bit more about who they are and what they want to use the data for. And then if it's if we're already clear with you as to what those requirements, what those particular criteria are, then we can release the data to that particular requester. If, for example, the requester has got some specific questions that they're to ask about, you know, how the data can be used, for example, it may be data that you don't want to be used in another application that can be then used to generate say an insurance policy, for example. You're not allowed to derive another work from that data, then that's something that we can discuss with you. And in some occasions, we've actually got on a three-way conference call with ourselves, dataset providers, and the requester to clear up any misunderstandings or clarify any points around the data. So in this case, I'm just going to make the data freely available. Now, the dataset origin, so what country is the dataset related to? In this case, you just start typing ahead and it presents you with a list. Where's the source of the data? So this typically is a link off to an external website that might be on a page, rather, on your website that has more background information to the data. So you can just drop the link in there. Version numbers, we default with a version 1. Who is the author? Typically, what we ask you to do when you are putting data onto the site on behalf of an organization, if you actually put the organization name down as the author, and then if there is a specific individual who's responsible, then you can put their email address in there. We have some of our partners, they have multiple data sets and they have different contacts within the organization that's responsible for volcanic data versus flooding data, and then you have pluvial flooding is different to coastal flooding. So it just allows you to kind of nominate the most appropriate person for that particular database. Now, the maintainer, typically that is ourselves, that is Oasis Hub. So we put ourselves in as the maintainer, and the maintainer email address is typically Jose, or if you're putting it in on for your own behalf. You put in hello at Oasis Hub. What that does is go to a group of us in the organization. So it means that things don't get lost if an individual's name down and they're away on holiday or out at a conference, for example. So what I've done here is I've just added what is in effect the kind of the container. It's got some metadata in there, and it's got the ability for me to kind of visualize some of the other resources that we're going to talk about now. So I've created the container. The next thing I'm going to do is add additional resources that help expand and explain what the data is all about. So I've got two options here. I can either upload data to the hub. Now, the easiest way is to actually create a package. And the package is really, it's a zip file. So it includes the data, the metadata, any technical publications, handbook, user guides, those sorts of things. It's all in one place. And the advantage with doing a package is that it's just one file. You simply attach it here, and the system gets ready to load it. You put in a brief description of what the particular resource is about. In this case, it's Byfleet flooding data. And we have a couple of options here. You can, three options that you can post a resource. It can be open, it can be secured without a key, and secured with a key. With commercial data, so data that has a price associated with it, we recommend that you secure data with a key. And I'll explain the process of how the key system works in a moment. So is there a digital object identifier associated with the data set? If it is, then you can drop that in there and people can then follow that link and read the scientific papers associated with it. And then a little bit of a description about what this particular piece of data or this particular resource is about. And then finally, tell me what type of file format it's in. In this case, it's a zip file, so I just add that in there. Now I've got the option of just finishing here and just adding one resource, but what I'm going to do is add another resource to this particular data set. Now, because I said secure with key, what the system's prompting me to do is copy this key. So this is the master key for this particular data set. So I copy that to the clipboard. And what we do is we have a record of them. So each data set or each resource rather, that has a key associated with it, we keep them stored securely on our server in the office. So what I've done is just captured the master key here. And then what I can do is upload some additional data sets. So let's put some information in about climate change here. And this is Byfleet climate data. And I'll just have that one as open, no DOI, and climate change. And this particular document is PDF, so I just start typing PDF, and then I can click on finish, and that is my data set with a couple of resources loaded. Now, if you remember that when I first loaded the data set, I marked it as private. So this, if I went to the hub and searched for Byfleet and West Byfleet flooding data, it wouldn't actually show up because it's marked as private. The only people that can see it are members of your organization. So you can see here, in this case, I've got an animated GIF here to kind of convey the extent of the data that we're working with. And there's a little video in here as well. So, you know, start clicking away on that. And so you can play more information about the video if you've got something that you've recorded. Right, so one of the other things that you can do as well is it might be that you've got the need to add a new resource, for example, that you've written a new user guide or enhanced the user guide, or you've got some extra visualizations, whatever it might be. If you go into edit the data set and click on resources, I can leave the page here, and I'm just going to go into the resources page. So this is the package that I added, and this is the PDF that I added. So I've got the option here if I wanted to get rid of that, and just click on that, and I can say, just go to the bottom of the screen here, and I can delete it. I can go back to all the resources. I can change the order that they display in the dataset page, and I've got the option as well of adding new resources on there as well. Okay, so the other point to cover here is, if I just go back to viewing the dataset, is the dataset forum. So each dataset has its own forum, and the idea behind this is that we keep the conversations within the context of the dataset itself. So if you just uploaded a dataset, in this case about flooding in West Byfleet in Surrey in the United Kingdom, you probably don't want to have a conversation about volcanoes in Hawaii in the same space. So by having a dataset forum per dataset, it allows you to interact with your user community that hopefully forms around the dataset over time, without any sort of distractions. So everything is kind of relevant to the data in question. Now, I mentioned the secure key earlier on, and the idea again behind this is it's used where typically where commercial data is available. So if I just manage this data set now and just make it public, so I just change the visibility to public, scroll to the bottom of the page and update the data set, and that data set is now, so if you're sat in front of a browser, you can fire up a tab and search for West Byfleet flooding data, and you will see this particular data set. Now, the idea behind the secure keys is that we wanted to protect data, and we wanted to protect our partners' data where it's commercially sensitive, and the way we do that is through keys. Now, there are a couple of things that a couple of bits of information that you need to provide to a dataset requester with regard to the key. So if I just, we're in the dataset now. You remember earlier on that I took a copy of the master key for this data set. So what happens is we will typically these data sets sit behind the get price button. So the folks here, the team here at Oasis Hub, would receive an email saying that somebody is interested in the Byfleet and West Byfleet flooding data for 2018. And review the request, and if it matches the criteria that you've given us and it's okay to go, then what we need to do is provide a key and a URL for the requester to access the data. So what we do is on the Explore button, we click More Information, and then what that gives us the opportunity to do is to create a one-time key. Now, we have a kind of a pre-canned email that we, like a draft email that we use to send to requesters of secure data. So the first thing we need to do is to create the one-time key for that data set. So remember earlier on, I pasted my master key for this particular data set in a document down here. I just copy the master key into here, and then the system generates the one-time key for me. So I want to copy that information, and I'm going to send this along with the URL to my dataset requester. Just let me shift the control panel out the way a little bit so I can go back. So I've got an email sat down here waiting to be sent. So you can see we've got, dear Jose, thanks for your interest in whatever the dataset is. And then we paste the key in here. The other bit of information is the URL that this key relates to. So I go back to the dataset, to the resource page, and then click on Go to Resource. And then what I need to do is copy the URL that's displayed here. So I just copy that. And then, as I did before with the one-time key, I just drop that into the email here. Then I send that email off. In this case, Jose will receive it. The instructions are copy this to the clipboard, click on this link, and when you're prompted, drop in the key, and that will give you access to the resource. It will download the resource directly to, in this case, the Jose's hard drive. So that is kind of a real kind of whistle-stop tour of how you put data and associated resources on the hub. A couple of things we do to sort of speed things up and to make sure that we don't lose things is, we have a central repository. So we keep a record of all the master keys, obviously, because we need them each time somebody requests a one-time key for a data set. We also keep copies of the one-time keys as well and who they get sent to. So we just got a record of what's gone where, and we put that in our CRM system so we can keep track of things. And the other thing that we do as well is we have a draft email ready, so we can drop the relevant information, which is the URL and the one-time key into the email. And that's basically it. So if you've got any questions, just let me know, and I'll be happy to deal with them. Like I say, webinar is being recorded, and I'll send you that link in a question. Sorry, in a couple of times. I've got a question's been raised here. Who's asking a question? Okay, if you've got a question to ask, if you just click on, if you move the mouse to the bottom of the screen, it pops up a little panel of controls, and one of them is the QA box, and you can just simply type in a question in there, and then we we can respond to it. Here we go. How do we engage with Oasis Hub commercially? Good question. And we've dealt with kind of quite technical things so far. So if you've got data that you want to make available, then if you know any of us individually, then you can drop us an email, and we can organize a call or a meeting, and we can discuss what it is you want to do. We can help with how you visualize the data, how you present the data. We can help with pricing and how you might want to support the data, and any sort of value add things that you want to add on top. So the easiest thing to do is to give us a call or drop an email to hello or sales@oasishub.co, and with your contact details, and then we'll get in touch with you and we'll discuss what it is you want to do and the best ways of doing that. We're doing a lot of work with the academic sector. A lot of universities and are doing research in the areas of climate change and natural catastrophe data and that sort of thing. And it's brilliant research, but they're not commercially minded, but they do want to get the data out into the world. So we're helping a lot of those sorts of organizations. And increasingly, we sort of came into being thinking that we would be a resource that provided data to the insurance industry, but increasingly we've got insurance and reinsurance companies coming to us saying, we've got this data, we think it's really valuable, we'd like to sell it, can you help us? So it's actually kind of gone full circle from that point of view. Another question around protecting data. This is again more around commercial confidentiality. So how do you protect data from going to a competitor? And that's really where the restriction process came from that I showed you a little bit earlier on. The idea behind that is that we act as a kind of a buffer between the requester and the data. So if you're concerned that one of your competitors might be about to harvest all your intellectual property and run away with your business, then that's where this get price process comes in. And first of all, we were a little bit unsure about it, because it's a bit like walking into a shop and there not being any prices on any of the items in the shop, and you're having to go and find somebody and ask them, what the price of a particular item is. But it's actually worked really well, because we found that where we've had a requester who doesn't know any of the contacts in the data provider's organization, they've been able to come to us, and we've been able to go straight to the relevant person at the data provider, and kind of broker a conversation, and it really kind of short circuits the process. But what it also does as well, it gives the data providers that confidence that the data is secure, and we're just not going to give that out to anyone willy-nilly. So it kind of acts as an extra security blanket around things. Another question come in. We've got someone online who's from a university, and they've got lots of data, and so they've got lots of data, some of which would like to be commercialized. How do they do that? Again, it's the same process. If you drop a note to sales@oasishub.co or hello@oasishub.co with your contact details, then we'll have a conversation, and again walk you through the process of, first of all, have a look at what the data is, and how it's formatted, how it's visualized, or the things we can do to help improve the visualization and provide some guidance that way. And really just kind of walk through the whole process of getting that data out there, because that's really our primary goal, is to bring data providers and data consumers together. The large amount of free data on their hub, that's where we started from while we were kind of testing the concept and the process, but increasingly we're getting more and more commercial data on there. And another question is around, can we have any specific branding around our research institute? And yes, that's something else that we've kind of done with work we did with the Insurance Development Forum. It sort of sits on the Oasis Hub platform, but it's co-branded between the Insurance Development Forum and Oasis Hub. But yes, we can work with you to create your own organization's branded view of data that's on the hub, of your data on the hub as well. So it's kind of like a portal that's a portal to your data that might be living in the hub. And if you're not familiar with the Insurance Development Forum, the cat risk catalog is actually it's a list of an increasingly growing list of commercially available, either most of them are commercial, there are some free data sets on here as well. And the idea is the cat risk tools acts as a kind of a signpost. The data itself and the models that are related to these entries on here don't actually exist on the hub, but what the catalog does is act as a signpost and directs you off to the contacts at these individual organizations. So you can see a whole raft of organizations on here, and a whole range of different types of data that's available for all over the world from a whole range of different providers. So really the hub and IDF kind of complement each other. The hub is very much around kind of raw data, whereas the IDF cat risk tools is signposting to models. So but the two kind of complement each other, with data being component parts typically of what's rolled up into a model. So that's it. We're kind of just a little bit over on time. Thank you for the questions that have come in and for your time right now. If there's any further questions, please feel free to fire them away now. What I'll do as part of the follow-up process, as well as a link to the webinar recording, I'll also send a Q&A document as well, so you can see all the questions with all the answers in one place as well. Oh, we got one more question that's come in. Right. So yes. So this is again the academic question again. If you've uploaded a lot of data into your own branded portal, are there other things such as academic papers, films, catalogs? Yeah. The idea is you know, can we put anything on the site? And yes, you can. The the hub is very much designed as a data repository, and it's kind of reasonably ignorant of what the data type is. It will ingest pretty much any form of data, scientific papers. You can even embed, you know, applications and things in executable files for software. There's a whole range of things that can go in there. So if you've got academic papers, technical documentation, scientific papers, all those sorts of things can be included with your data as well, to really kind of round out the user experience and give users kind of access to a lot more kind of value added information as well, not just the data itself. Okay. If there are no more questions, I'll draw things to a close here. I just wanted to, as we're a couple of weeks away from Christmas, I just wanted to wish you all, you know, happy holidays for those that are going away. One question, oh yes, the branded portals, another question that's just snuck under the radar. There is a cost with the branded portals, and what we do is we work with you to understand exactly what it is you wanted to do, how many pages, how much data, how much effort we'd need to put into creating that. So it's done on a case-by-case basis. But we're, like I say, happy to talk to you about that should you wish to go ahead. I just want to say thank you as well, everyone, for all the support you've given us over the last kind of 2 and a bit years. It's been a busy old time, and we've still got as much as we do. There's always seems to be a lot more that we want to do. So I wanted to thank you for your help and support and feedback along the way. If you've got any more questions, drop a note either to me directly, jim.craig@oasishub.co, or hello@oasishub.co. And if there are no more questions, I'd just like to wish you all a great holiday, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2019. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye for now.